So we're here to add, following my recent reading of the book called The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, and it's been on my Sunday, I'm going to read that list. And recently I read it, and in spite of the actual evolutionary biology ideas in it, which are absolutely fascinating, and I recommend anyone who hasn't read it to read it, I started to see parallels or correlations that I could use in terms of goal setting and behavior change in our own individual lives. And the thing that struck me the most was this idea of an intermediate, that things. Say, for example, they're an athlete or they do something like triathlon endpoint. So in the same way that we see an evolved organism, we don't really consider that not have passed and the tiny, tiny changes that have that they've gone through to get to that point. We just kind of look at this person. So I'm going to kind of hop backwards and forwards between you how I got this penny dropping moment, that this person does triathlon. They've just always been like really fit and competitive. Start to see the kind of evolution that they've gone through. They can swim, ride their bike, and they saw somebody else doing it, and they've gone through this process. And from the time of when they didn't do it at all to what you see now has been a long journey of trial and error, of making steady progress, periods of no progress. In the evolutionary process, it's not like a linear, then this happened, then this change, tiny change, tiny change. A million years goes by, nothing much happens. If you take those millions of years and put it into, I don't know, 20 years that this person's been working on their swimming technique and their running technique, entering competitions, learning about problem in their knee and how to work around that, and the tiny, tiny changes they've made day to day, week to week, and then so here's the story of the person telling you, oh, I thought I might try this. And they thought no more about it. They weren't setting a goal or setting out on a journey. They just thought, oh, this is interesting, I'll try that. And then they wanted to take it further. And then we see the end point. But in between there, the beginning and the end, there have been these like intermediate points. And let's say that could be, say, an event, like, right, there's a train for that, a goal that particular year. And they might be weak on one thing, and that was their goal for that month. And the thing I saw as well is the difference between goals, as in goals, they could be intentions, missions, whatever you want to call them, some future idea of like, but it's just like a statement, a contract, a kind of a writing down of an idea of, right, I want that building to be built. So it's just like an architect's plan, or the way I thought of it. When I thought of which are just collections of genes, and genes aren't all the same size either. They can be little as a description of a unit, but they're not all the same size. So in the same way, our goals, or that statement, we can have quite big goals and small goals and describe them so they at the end. But I thought of recipes. So like a chromosome could be like a recipe book. So yeah, I don't know, just making some soup. But then a soup could be a compound recipe that's got stock. So that's like a separate thing on its own, but then it's compound because it's part, like you need to make the stock in order to make this soup. So you've got all these recipes, but that's all they are. They're just sets of instructions. And then the ingredients and start working your way through the steps. So that's what I thought of, like the the genes and the chromosomes. They don't do anything. They just kind of they tell you what to do, and setting goals is just that. You set them, and then that's it. You write them down on paper, and you feel good about them, and you plan them, but nothing's happened. You just taken some ideas, you've written them on paper, then comes the execution. And that's where I really started to think of this idea of the intermediate. Say, right, I'm going to do yoga every day. They kind of jump from not doing any yoga every day to, oh my God, an hour a day. I can't do that. And they rarely think about, I've gotten, there's the end point. There's no concept of the in between. Like, what is the first step? And having this idea of tiny changes, so this sort of incremental change. So that's what's happening. You, as a person, have to change. You have to stop, almost give up. So I'll stay with triathlon example instead of jumping into other ones. But I don't swim, so I'm not the kind of person who gets up at 5 in the morning and goes for a swim. Well, if you're going to do triathlon, you are going to have to become a person who does get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes for a swim and keeps track of how far you went, how fast you did, how you felt. So I'm the kind of person who goes for a swim every morning and I keep track of it, and I wear a heart rate monitor. I've been learning about it. So how do I go from I don't swim to I'm this kind of person? And there are implementation of it is going to be, well, what are those little steps then? We could say, oh, journey of 1,000 miles is the first step, but I have to take that first. If you're going to walk, okay, that's very clear. I'm going to put one in front of the other. If I'm going to start swimming, then what's that? Do I go and buy a new swim costume? Okay, there you go. That's your first step. Do I get some goggles? Do I go and get a subscription at the local swimming pool? So you've moved it forward. That you're already implementing. So for some people, those steps can be who follows that same goal. So someone taking up swimming, they might already like whatever, and already a subscription they're paying for but not using, and they decide, right, to take this up. Whereas someone else, they might have back problems, so I want to start swimming. What do I do? What's the first step? Okay, first step, see your doctor. Okay, pick up the phone. So you could make those steps not big or small, because the big and small, they're arbitrary definitions. They only pertain to you. So you intermediate step. And in a sense, it doesn't matter how many, as long as they're kind of realistic. So you have your kind of long-term goal. I'm going to swim 2 miles under X amount of time. And then you have your short-term goal problem. And it seems like they're so far apart that got to keep the long look at the short term, as in, right, is this good for me? Is this okay? Get even close to that. And going back to the evolution idea, is that, okay, so you've got these little steps, and in evolution, they're generations. So the tiny change occurs when the DNA mutates, and then the next generation is, or depending on what kind of animal or plant it is, the next generation then has that environment in which to survive and sustain itself, and again replicate. So it's then developing a strategy to help it last as long as possible, and it's competing with the other sets of genes, I guess, similar to the person learning to swim. So there's going to be this kind of shifting backwards and forwards. Print that's going to guarantee you to go from 0 to winning your local triathlon. You've got to take these little steps, and they're incremental. They get you a little bit closer, but they may take you back a bit. So you go to the doctor tells you, yeah, actually your back is fine. And then your eyes start burning, and you're like, oh no, I can't handle the chlorine. What am I going to do? Okay, do I give up? That sort of iteration gives you a next step. Maybe go back to the doctor, go to an eye specialist. So the steps, if you're looking back from, like, say you're talking to the person who's already done this, and they're looking back, they'll be looking back in the number of that were kind of realistic, slightly bigger jumps, which are ideal for you. So you've got to work out what the next step is, whether the next step is too big or too small, and through that kind of trial and error, you figure out both the whole goal setting process yourself, but also move closer to your kind of ultimate goal. So you're always looking at the day-to-day goal, week or month, through the sort of lens of the long term. How's that so far?
Yeah, it's great. I'm slightly distracted by my thought, but hey, you know, we're doing this. My past involvement in this is to I'm, you know, connecting to a better net band. So I've kind of been writing words as you've been talking. Just picking out bits of what you're saying. So let's kind of get this. So where we are, hopefully, we're learning to be skillful observers through, you know, through this transitional stages. And what we see when we see someone who's achieved is we meet them in that moment, or we see them on TV or wherever it is, and that is what we see. So we obviously don't know the backstory. We don't know all that stuff. But of course, it is there. So we might be inspired to go like, yeah, I'd like, you know, we watch the Olympics and go like, yeah, I'll try and run a marathon or something. And we really good to explain, you know, like the path, you know, it's a reminder. I think what you're saying is it's a reminder of the stages that we're all going to have to go through in order to achieve the goal that we're going to set, or multiple goals, which is often what's going on in our life. So I've kind of written down, you know, tracking progress, looking back, seeing the journey, journaling, you know, like tools to be able to do this. How can we make this something? If we're journaling, like I've journaled most of my life, and although I've rid of a lot of my journals, I could look back on the past 3 years, and I can see the journey of going from where I was 3 years ago to where I am now. First, they're not necessarily, that's not goals. That's not goal setting, other than I'm always trying to inch towards something better for myself. I don't necessarily know what that is a lot of the time, but I do have intentions and goals that this merges. So then I've also written, you know, daily practice, rituals, incremental change. We've got this kind of the detailed progress, to be realistic, the evolution through our actions. You know, we change, we evolve. I think, you know, I wrote this down a little while ago. You know, intentions evolve and change. So I kind of feel, just bringing this to like it's New Year, or, you know, like could be any time when we set these intentions. I always students to look back. You know, you've got to kind of look back and, you know, like see your strengths, see what you're good at, see what worked, and, you know, like thinking about what you said about recipes, like those recipes in our DNA, if you like, are often the things that work for us as individuals. So our innate qualities, they could be, they're kind of set. You know, they're set. So if we kind of how we are set, then we can build towards success. So it's no good saying, you know, I want to marathon when you really, you know, chances are you might be able to, but if you're not predisposed to the discipline, and if you're not somebody who just wants to get up, like somebody, you know, a friend said to me, like, people don't achieve their goals because they're lazy. I went, oh, I don't think that's the thing. It's just like sometimes we set on things that not just unrealistic. We are never going to be that thing, you know. Unless we are going to really invest enormously in time and effort, and most people can't really do that because we're juggling very, multiple aspects of living, like family, work, relationships, through the gut, never. So I think, but in real terms, it's like, from what you've said, what I've picked up is better to just really try and look at the stuff that you're really good at and plug the gaps, where there's leakages. Like, okay, this thing I'm really, I don't do enough of it. I don't nurture myself enough, perhaps. So that's like something you could fix. So maybe in order to move forwards, we need to really heal who we are, so that when we're better people, then we can do all the things that we want to do. Does that resonate at all?
That's the kind of that's more of, I think, is like covering the whole of. Because I was talking about one specific, everything else kind of covered, whereas you're not assuming that the person has relationships. They need to continue to spend time nurturing and looking after all those things. So it's, if I understand you correctly, it's like, well, let's just spend some time just looking at the basics and create a sort of foundation of just being well and healthy. That you don't have that sort of foundation, as it were, in terms of your own health and well-being and relationships, I don't know, financial well-being. So look at that first, take stock of it, look at what needs to be addressed and how much effort. This is where I need to put my efforts now, so let's just shelve this for now. Because if I focus on that, I'm going to neglect the basics, as it were. And then it's just to me, you get people like university professors who are, they've got the bee in their bonnet about a certain research project, and they just drop everything and they just do that. They're up late at night, they neglect their family, they're not eating well, but in healthy that is, it's kind of single-minded, but it's one way. I wouldn't say it's the best way, but maybe it's not the healthiest way in terms of addressing all of your needs. But that one thing gets done. So choice then, if you've got a goal of running a marathon, but you've got financial problems, you've got relationship problems with your children, I don't know, behavioral issues, but you decide, let's put that all to one side. I'm going to focus on getting up every morning and just running, getting myself a coach. And it's almost like alcoholism, in that, okay, it looks like you're doing something very healthy by running, but really all you've done is just put all your basic health and well-being needs to one side and go, right, I'm going to focus on this just to avoid all of that, in the same way that you would do if you were drinking excessively to just avoid all of your problems. So I think what you're saying is that, okay, as you're writing down all your goals and intentions, just take stock of your life and say, well, am I well, essentially? Am I related? Do I, is my mind calm? Do I eat well? Do I exercise enough to keep fit? Can I maintain this? And turn your attention to that before anything like pole vaulting or being around the world or anything. Would that be the right
Yeah, that's correct. You're completely correct.
assessment?
What I'm saying, and I can see that the two, like that there's two different things going on here. So yeah, I'm in the, like all about healthy conversations with that bit. Really, it's really boring, but it makes us function better. And it's that constant repetition, isn't it? So it's like, it's a similar thing to beginning to run a marathon, preparing. There are things you have to do every day. So from my side of this, the camp is, like those, morning rituals, daily rituals, journaling, meditation, yoga, exercise, whatever we want to do. Healthy practices, really thinking about what we eat, how we eat, bedtime rituals, time for relationships. I mean, from my own, that is my life. That is like, I invest 100% in all of those things. And I think, I know people, I've had it said to me plenty of times, oh, it's all right. You've got it all sussed. You're just really good at this. Like, seriously? It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort. And I don't necessarily want to be really good at finance. So we really want to know about, my interest rates and stuff. I don't want to know that stuff. But I'm engaged with it because it's part of the cogs that keep my kind of turning. I want to just, I often say to, people, my goal in life is just to live with freedom, that I can just like, and be in this independent spirit where I can, really just do what I like. And some people go like, yeah, you just do what you like, don't you? Like, you're just all over the shop. And it's just like, no, but in order to be able to do that, it's almost like an illusion, isn't it? It's an illusion. Because actually,
yes, yeah,
super thorough. And I get a little bit impatient. I think like, what do you mean you don't know how to eat properly? What do you mean you don't know, you don't balance your bank account? What do you mean you don't? Like I'm not perfect. Like, it's not perfect. But I'm working at it all the time. So I'm not a marathon runner, but I'm 100% engaged in the detail of living my life on my terms, if you like. And I have a goal. I like a new discipline. I guess I really kind of lean into that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to really try and do that. But then there's also an acceptance of who I am as a person and the challenges that come in life. Like, it's not like it's a breeze, and it's not like, oh yeah, her life is really easy. It's far from it. It's absolutely far from it. Periods of ease, like, it's a lot easier now. And I think I kind of call that seasons. Like, I'm in an easy season at the moment, and I have friends who are really storms, like proper winter. And it passes. These things pass, but the sort of the structuring of goals for me has to, or living with intention has to be really rooted in routine and structure. And it's not the same, it's just a different way of doing it.
But that So again, the person who doesn't have that established in their life can look at someone like you who has that established in their life, and they just see that end point. They don't see the process that you've gone through, different ways that you've had routines and structures in your life that worked, and how you learned to value them and how they began to bear fruit. Because at the beginning, there are very new, a lot of doubt as to whether having a daily journaling practice or meditation practice is going to bring you any benefits. All you've had is people telling you that you should do this, it's really good for you. They convinced you by telling you why, that you have less stress, but you've never done it. So you just, it's useful to have like time. Maybe not for the whole of your life, maybe for a certain period. You really just have to try it. There's a period of what should we call it? Adaptation. Is that where the air is thinner, and you have this period where your muscles get they're able to get the acclimatization. That's what it's called. So you have to, being the person who doesn't have structure or routine, or isn't holistic, or isn't looking after themselves, if you want to call it that, to becoming the person who does look after themselves. And like a sort of fledgling, okay, I've started journaling once a week, and I meditate every other week. Go from that, from nothing, does it, to, okay, I've got this meditation app now, and I do it, every 10 days or so, just to make that little jump. You've been through that, I've been through that, and then not done it. The next day you're hungover and you didn't do it, but then the next time you do it, you think, okay, maybe drink a bit less because I do want to meditate tomorrow, and if I'm a little bit hungover, it's still okay, I can do it. So there's the iteration, there's the little, actually, because when I do that, then the rest of the day kind of goes well. Teach you that, okay, doing this is worthwhile. So at the beginning, you're having to use willpower. You're having to kind of push yourself. But as you get into this, as you pass through this sort of adaptation that takes, could be a few months, could be a year, a few years, then it no longer needs that kind of push. So when you're this person who hasn't done that, and you see someone doing it, and you think, oh, I'll never get to that stage, it's so easy for them. Well, yeah, now they've been doing it for the last 10 years, and they've been through cumulative, but you've got to go through that, and there's a point where the effort that you need to make to keep that happening just goes down and down and down. At the beginning, it's huge, possible, implausible, improbable, and just like, I can't do that. There's no, like, do a guided meditation with someone. Okay, you think nothing of it, still nothing compared to, oh, they meditate 3 hours a day. Oh my God, I'll never be able to do that. And then you apply a slight meditation the following day, and you've got another tiny win, and you build those 2 sessions. And then you talk to a friend and say, oh, you know what? I tried meditation. It was really good. Oh, it was really good. Suddenly you've got some feedback, and then you try it again. And you have to push yourself. But as you keep doing that, you start to get a sort of foundation, and the balance starts to tip from I'm not the person who meditates to I'm the kind of person who meditates every other week. And then it tips a bit more. I'm the kind of person who meditates twice a week. And it keeps going and going to where you don't need to make the effort anymore, because you've become that person. You're not the, oh my God, will I get doing? To, you've acclimatized now. You can walk up in the mountains and not get whatever they get, altitude sickness. But I don't know how long that is. I think that will vary for whatever kind of, that effort will disappear once there's a tipping point. And I know that that's happened for me, because now, like, say, doing my meditation in the morning or doing my kettlebell session, I don't go through that process of shall I today, shan't I do it today? It just happens because I am that person now. And whatever, I'm not this kind of person, to this is who I am. You think about, shall I do it, shan't I do it, is it, will it going to be easy? This is trying to pep talk myself. It just happens. But that shift from having to make that pep talk to, or having to do a lot of that, to it just happens automatically. It's just my habit. It's that kind of phase. It's the hard bit. Once you've gone through that, then it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's reminded me. There's 2 things I want to pick up on. One is reminding of a time when I saw that I saw everything that I explained. But the thing about being aligned to the adjustment, I think that for me, that's often taken me quite a long time. I've not been, and I sometimes think about this when my kids were small. I would catch myself speaking to them as if they were 3 years younger than they were at the time. So I'd be going like, oh, talking to them, they're 5, they're 7, or 8. I'm like, oh my God, when did they grow up? Like, in sync with that time. And then I'd have to do an adjustment, go like, no, they're 13 now. Up to speed.
I see. Yeah.
So with kids and that kind of stuff, obviously you have to do that. That's like, it's in front of you. You've got to go like, yeah, I have to speak to like a 13-year-old, 16-year-old, or 20-year-old, wherever they are in their life. But I know there's been a couple of times in my life where I have failed to be aligned to the achievement, to the actual when the goal is being reached and I'm at this new level. And that I am really out of touch with it. Like, it was so big, so big. I mean, I think I'm thinking of like when I moved to this part of this flat, and I, you know, like everybody knew what I was doing. I was like getting rid of everything that I had. I decided to do this massive downsize in order to kind of create so much more in my life. And then at that time, you know, I lost my brother and my mother, and I in that losing of those in my life, I kind of acquired a lot more other parts of living that benefited me. And I mean, you know, it's difficult to go like, okay, grief is an emotion, or like joy is an emotion. I had these very extreme sort of things going on, and I was completely lost in it. So perhaps if I hadn't had the grief, I could have just gone like, yay, I did it. But, you know, I couldn't do that because, you know, like others, it's almost like the stuff is going on around you, and that's called life, isn't it? It's going on all the time. So yeah, I achieved this massive goal, but I wasn't able to be aligned with it. In fact, I had to get some help several years after this process to then to help me to align to the person that I am now. I mean, coupled with that, also adding phrases like my age and going through the menopause, which I wasn't really fully aware of, because I'm in kind of pretty good health and well-being. That wasn't something that impacted me in a way that perhaps it would impact other people as well. So, but that was definitely going on, and only when I had to sort of stand back from everything and go like, oh my God, look back at that landscape and just see, you know, that's like a lot. But you know, there's a lot of
yeah.
so much good in it, and also so much, you know, the big life issues come to you at turning 50 and like becoming, I mean, oh, as an old person really, is it? Because middle age is younger than 50, but we all go like, oh, middle age. You know, there's times in life when we just have to take stock. But I think in living intentionally and with goal setting, we should be doing that on a basis. It's not like when the big shit hits the fan. You know, like, oh my God, now I've got to like, you know, that. So I think for what someone who is very mindful of living intentionally and mindfully, that, you know, we still get caught out. You still go like, oh,
yeah.
I did not say I had, and it took a friend to sort of, someone said to me, I was out with a group of girlfriends, and one said, oh God, Lisa, how's your life going? It's like so fantastic. You've done all this stuff. And I'm going like, I don't know. I just don't know. And my best buddy sort of almost gave me this sort of emotional beating up. It was like by the scruff of the neck against the wall. She's going like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you know, like you're not, you know, you're the leader, you're doing all this stuff, and it's all the stuff that the rest of us want to do, and we're watching you do it, and we know that we can do it because you're paving the way, and you're just like, like yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's almost like I don't know how to be in this new place that I've worked really hard to get to. That I have been on this like 18-month marathon of purging all my material goods and lifetime of living in a family home, and all those children's bikes and accessories of living have now gone, and like I've achieved it, but I don't quite know how to feel in this. So I think when we are goal setting, it's very important understand, you know, what emotional state are we looking for? This thing of how do you want to be in this rather than what do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's like, you know, like I knew what I wanted to do, but I had no idea how to be. I just thought I'll just keep going. And then you just hit another wall, don't you? Like, okay,
Yeah.
back at the beginning again.
I think that happened to me with my long distance cycling. I kind of got the goal and my identity kind of misaligned, or yeah. So I made the goal. So with this cycling, long distance cycling organization, they had little challenges, like do this many rides and do like a consecutive run of 12. And so I got caught in the goals that they set. So you have to do a super randonneur, which is 2, 3, 4, and 600. So there's the goal already set. So all that you have to do is train for it and just do it and make sure it's official. So you get people at the checkpoints stamping your card, and then at the end of 100, my 300, my 400, and my 600. So give me the badge. So I did it, as in like doing. I got on my bike and I rode the distance, and it was official, and I got the stamp of approval. But then, who was I? My goal, a cyclist or a long distance cyclist. It was, I suppose, to be a long distance cyclist in a temporary way while I was doing these challenges. So it was very much, you know, it took me a while to realize after I'd finished that I'm doing these challenges. I'm trying to tick these, done that, and I got the badges and I showed them off. What now? I was kind of, and I stopped cycling. So because I hadn't had the goal of being a cyclist.
Yeah.
I hadn't really aligned with that. It was more about doing the challenges. And once the challenges were done, it was like, well now what? Do I do them again? Do I take on a bigger one? It's like, well, I've done it. Now what? And since then I haven't. I didn't focus on my identity. I focused on the ticking off boxes, really. And they did give a sense of achievement, but they didn't give that long-term satisfaction of becoming the person that I wanted to be. And not that I regret it, but it's taught me that when you're setting goals, you have to really think about how doing the thing that you're doing, or achieving a certain challenge, is actually just a stepping stone. We're back to this intermediate idea again. So doing a super randonneur challenge, that is on the path of your ongoing development of an identity. So I am becoming a better cyclist, and I am a cyclist. That should have been the goal that I've focused on, and this going training, going on this 600-kilometer run, having a day off. All that is part of being a cyclist, and the being is, I wasn't focused on that. And now I realize if if I set any kind of big goal like that again, I'm going to focus a lot more on the identity side of it and thinking about who I'm becoming and who I want to be and become, and how doing this will lead me to that. And not just for the sake of ticking the box and like, right, I've done this now, I've climbed the mountain, now what? Aren't you a mountain climber? Are you going to climb another mountain? No.
Yeah.
Well, who are you then?
Yeah, I think this is really cool that, as always, when we have our chat, when we just walk and chat together, you know, I moments of clarity where I go like, oh right, yeah, I hadn't considered becoming. This is like going to be my word for 2021, become. Because also when we go through, I'm thinking about life stages as well. So, you know, mine is no different to many other people. You become a career goal, like you said, set out to be. For me, that was, you know, I was at art school. I wanted to do fashion. I wanted to be a fashion designer. I became a fashion designer. So becoming again, you know, then I met my husband. You know, I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to be a mother. I became a mother. I am a mother. And then I'm now a mother of young adult children. They're not even that young adult, not a young adult anymore. You know, everything keeps growing and developing. And like I was saying about speaking to the children, you know, out of sync with where they are, just saying to myself now, you know, my oldest is not a young adult. She's like, she's going to be 28 next year. That's like, she's an adult, you know, she's making choices that will define the next phase in her life, like I did when I was so we are always becoming, and then we get to places where perhaps I am at in this, you know, time in my life where my children, and I know that they're independent, they're self-sufficient, they're, you know, they're good people, they're capable, you know, they don't need me to mother and parent them in the way that when they were young. I can take a step back, and it is that thing of like, okay, who am I now? Who am I becoming? Yeah, I have this.
Yeah.
I have this time, and I'm very conscious of the time. I suppose I hadn't actually considered my emotional connection to time and the sense of identity in this time as well. But I wanted to add into this because I think it tells a little story about the acclimatization, one of them, but about the constant repetition of doing the small things that get you to the bigger place. So years ago, to be honest, I never really know why I'm a yoga teacher, because my root is very much in I always think it's a creative thing, but I'm you know, I'm doing other things, but it's the thing that's, you know, given me security and stability, in not just from teaching, but in my own personal practice. And people would say, you know, like, or in classes, when I taught loads of classes, and, you know, in health clubs and places, and you get lots of people asking questions, struggling, and, you know, just more of it. And I would often say to people, the reason why I do this every day is because I want to one day walk up a mountain. I want to be able to say, if somebody says to me, do you want to, you know, climb a mountain? I want to be fit enough to be able to do it. So I will keep on doing squats all the time, because I know they can climb the mountain. So you could kind of go like a bigger analogy of like, I'm going to meditate every day because life is a mountain, and this is the thing that helps me to climb it. So then one day I saw this advert to go to the Himalayas, trek through the Indus Valley, which really ticked my box of the home of Hindu philosophy and the kind of the birthplace, if you like, of this philosophy that I've always kind of, subscribed to. That's really been a foundation of how I've chosen to live. And it was in the Easter holidays, and my kids were little. Like, oh God, can I pull this off? You know, I'm a single parent. Can I really go off to the Himalayas and trek? I've got responsibilities. So I just kind of called my mum and said, look, any chance you could have the kids for 10 days? Like, it's in the school holidays. So. And she sort of said, yeah. And then I had to raise quite a lot of money as well. So I thought, shit, how am I going to raise like however much thousands it was? I did a spreadsheet of everybody that I knew. Thought, if they all give me a tenner plus gift aid, I'm kind of and that, so again, it's this thing of like, okay, how do I achieve this? So yeah, I've got the kids looked after. I think I can raise the money in a short space of time. And it all came together. I had lots of help, lots of support, and I went off and I was at the airport and I met the people that I was going to trek with, and everybody was talking about their preparation that they'd done. And they were sort of like, some people had like done marathon. Some people had gone to Snowdonia. I would love to go to Snowdonia. I still haven't gone there. I thought I would go to Snowdonia. Like, yeah, a single parent working all the time. Like, when did I have time to go to Snowdonia? I never had any money to go anywhere. Jokes even thinking about it. So I was listening to everyone's things, thinking, oh my God, I've done wrong. I did an extra yoga class once a week. I did a lot of warriors. I mean, literally, that is the absolute truth. I walked a lot. I made sure I went out and walked. I lived on Earlsfield Hill. I went up and down the hill, like in a gap that somewhere, God knows where my kids were, but weekends when I went with their dad, I walked to Kew Gardens and back. So it was really like intermittent, and in the way that I lived. Anyway, I was thinking, oh well, shit, I'm here now, aren't I? What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? So of course you have to acclimatise to the air and all this. And you have to have insurance to airlift you off the cliff, off the mountains. That was like, oh really? I hadn't thought of that. Hadn't thought about the danger of where I was going, like snow leopards kill you. We're quite close to.
Oh my God, snow leopards.
Again, I'm here now, I've done it. Anyway, it was absolutely fine. I was like one of the few people who had no physical problems, no mental problems. I was, like in the lead of it all, walking happily, completely on my own. Sheer, well, it's the biggest mountains in the world, with all these tiny paths walking along, going, I will never be scared. Again, in the whole of my life. And sure enough, no, that didn't work. But so what I'm saying is that, so I just did warrior poses. I just kept doing the squats because I'd said at some point I might have an opportunity to climb a mountain, and I'd like to be able to say yes to life and the opportunity that it gives me, and I want to be ready for it. So that's why I think, and I know for me, all these things are important. Yeah, you need to have all these things in place. You need to have like good health, well-being, value that. Like old people say, oh, if you've got your health, you're right. Yeah, it's true. If you've got enough money in the bank, yeah, I'm not like crazy wealthy. My income is like, I live on a that's enough thing, because that's as much effort I want to put in, is to get this amount of money that makes me able to sort of just walk the dog. And also that experience about the dog is that when I came back from the Himalayas and thinking like, oh my God, I'm not going to walk anymore. I have no reason to do these things any longer. But like you, a cyclist, I've become a walker. And then I thought, well, you know, that's because I love walking. You know, I love being outside. I love being in nature, and you know, may as well bring the dog into our life as well. So that's like the, you know, these. It's what the experience brings to us afterwards, isn't it? It's so interwoven, this the fabric of living into the experience of life.
No.
I was thinking that ended on a profound note, didn't it?
Frozen in the mountains.
Yeah.